Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another live reading of 1001 Nights. My name is Joanna Godwin-Seidl. I am your host this evening once again. I am just going to take a moment to invite two groups onto the reading, as is my wont, and then we will start straight away. In the meantime, as usual, enjoy the lovely music of Kamya Sodiri.
گفتمش شیرین ترین آواز چیست چشم غمگینش به رویم خیره ماند گفتمش شیرین ترین آواز چشم غمگینش به رویم خیره ماند قطره قطره اشکش از مژگان چکید لرزه افتادش گیسوی بلند زیر لب غمناک ناله زنجیرها بر دست من گفتمش آنگه که از هم بگسلند خنده تلخی به لب آورد و گفت
There you go. Good evening, everybody. Again, in case you don't know, my name is Joanna Godwin-Seidl. I'm your host this evening for the reading of 1001 Nights. We are now on the 371st night. In case you don't know, I am a director and an actress running Vienna Theatre Project, and we started the readings last year on March the 20th, 2020, during the first lockdown, to keep people company during the whole pandemic period. If you do enjoy what we're doing, then please do feel free to comment, love, like, dislike, whatever your feeling is about the reading this evening. Do feel free to let us know in the comments and with the emojis. And if you really love what we're doing, Samantha and I have been doing this for a year as a gratuity, and we do ask for donations. So you can donate to www.paypal.me/Vienna Theatre Project. It will be on the notes afterwards. You can see it actually from every of our reading, the connection to PayPal, where you can make the donation. We would be very, very grateful indeed. Thank you very much. So now, when it was the 371st night, Scheherazade said, "It has reached me, O auspicious king, that the king's son spread great banquets for the townsfolk, and they held high festival, a whole month, at the end of which he went in to the princess, and they took their joy of each other with exceeding joy. But his father brake the ebony horse in pieces and destroyed its mechanism for flight. Moreover, The prince wrote a letter to the princess's father, advising him of all that had befallen her, and informing him how she was now married to him and in all health and happiness, and sent it by a messenger, together with costly presents and curious rarities. And when the messenger arrived at the city which was Sana'a, and delivered the letter and the present to the king, he read the missive and rejoiced greatly thereat, and accepted the presents, honouring and rewarding the bearer handsomely. Moreover, he forwarded rich gifts to his son-in-law by the same messenger, who returned to his master and acquainted with him what had passed, whereat he was much cheered. And after this, the prince wrote a letter every year to his father-in-law, and sent him presents till, in course of time, his sire, King Sabur, deceased, and he reigned in his stead, ruling justly over his lieges, and conducting himself well and righteously towards them, so that the land submitted to him, and his subjects did him loyal service. And Kamar al-Akbar and his wife Shams al-Nahar abode in the enjoyment of all satisfaction and solace of life. Till there came to them the destroyer of delights, and the sunderer of societies, the plunderer of palaces, and the caterer of cemeteries, and the garnerer of graves. And now, glory be to the living one, who dieth not, and is whose hand is the dominion of the worlds visible and invisible. Moreover, I have heard tell the tale of Uns Al-Wujud and the Wazir's daughter Al-Wad Fil Akman, or Robin Hood. There was once, in days of yore, and in ages of times long gone, a king of great power, and lord of glory and dominion galore, who had a wazir, Ibrahim hight, and this wazir's daughter was a damsel of extraordinary beauty and loveliness, gifted with passing brilliancy and the perfection of grace, possessed of abundant wit, and in all good breeding complete. But she loved wassail and wine, and the human face divine, and choice verses and rare stories, and the delicacy of her inner gifts invited all hearts to love, even as saith the poet describing her, like moon, she shines amid the starry night, robing in tresses blackest ink outvie. The morning breezes give her boughs fair drink, and like a branch she sways with supple ply. She smiles in passing us, O thou that art fairest in yellow robed or cramoisy. Thou playest with my wit in love as though, sparrow in hand of playful boy, were I. Her name was Rose in Wood. Rose in Hood, I apologize. And she was so named for her young and tender beauty, and the freshness of her brilliancy, and the king loved her in his cups because of her accomplishments and fine manners. Now, it was the king's custom yearly to gather together all the nobles of his realm and play with the ball. So when the day came round whereon the folk assembled for ball play, the minister's daughter seated herself at her lattice to divert herself by looking on at the game. And as they were at play, her glance fell upon a youth among the guards, more beautiful than whom never was seen a comelier face nor a goodlier form. For he was bright of favour, showing white teeth when he smiled, tall-statured and broad-shouldered. She looked at him again and again, and could not take her fill of grazing, and presently said to her nurse, "What is the name of yonder handsome young man among the troops?" Replied the nurse, "Oh, my daughter, the dear fellows are all handsome. Which one of them dost thou mean?" Said Rosenhood, "Wait till he come past, and I will point him out to thee." So she took an apple, and as he rode by, dropped it on him, whereupon he raised his head to see who did this, and espied the Wazir's daughter at the window, as she were the moon of fullest light in the darkness of the night. Nor did he withdraw his eyes till his heart was utterly lost to her, and he recited these lines: "Was it archer shot me, or was it thine eyes? Ruined lover's heart that thy charms espies. Was the notched shaft from a host outshot, or from latticed window in sudden guise?" When the game was at an end, and all had left the ground, she asked her nurse, "What is the name of the youth I showed thee?" And the good woman answered, "His name is Al-Wujud." Whereat Rosenhood shook her head and lay down on her couch with thoughts of fire for love. Then, sighing deeply, she improvised these couplets. He missed not who dubbed their world's delight, a world's love conjoining to bounty's light. Oh, thou, whose favour the full moon favours, whose charms make life and the living bright, thou hast none equal amongst mankind, Sultan of beauty and proof I'll cite. Thine eyebrows are likest a well-formed noon, and thine eyes are sad by his hand indite. Thy shape is soft, green bough that gives, when asked to all with all gracious sprite. Thou excellent nights of the world in store, with delight and beauty and bounty dight. When she had finished her verses, she wrote them on a sheet of paper, which she folded in a piece of gold embroidered silk and placed under her pillow. Now, one of her nurses had seen her, so she came up to her and held her in talk till she slept, when she stole the scroll from under her pillow, and after reading it, knew that she had fallen in love with Al-Wujud. Then She returned the scroll to its place, and when her mistress awoke, she said to her, "O my lady, indeed I am to thee a true counsellor, and am tenderly anxious on thy account. Know that love is a tyrant, and the hiding it melteth iron, and entaileth sickness and unease. Nor for whoso confesseth it is there aught of reproach," rejoined Rosenhood. "And what is the medicine of passion, O nurse mine?" answered the nurse. "The medicine of passion is enjoyment," quoth she. "And how may one come by enjoyment?" quoth the other. "By letters and messages, my lady. By whispered words of compliment, and by greetings before the world. All this bringeth lovers together, and makes hard matters easy. So, if thou have aught at heart, mistress mine, I am the fittest to keep thy secret, and do thy desires, and carry thy letters." Now, when the damsel heard this, her reason flew and fled for joy. But she restrained herself from speech till she should see the issue of the matter, saying within herself, "None knoweth this thing of me, nor will I trust this one with my secret till I have tried her." Then said the woman, "O my lady, I saw in my sleep as though a man would come to me and said, 'Thy mistress and uns love each other, so do thou serve their case by carrying their messages and doing their desires and keeping their secrets, and much good shall befall thee.' So now I have told thee my vision, and it is thine to decide." Quoth Rosenhood, after she heard of the dream, and Scheherazade perceived the dawn of day and ceased saying her permitted say. Now, when it was the 372nd night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Rosenhood asked her nurse, after hearing of the dream, 'Tell me, canst thou keep secret, O nurse?' Whereto she answered, 'And how should I not keep secrecy, I that am of the flower of the free?' Then the maiden pulled out the scroll whereon she had written the verses and said, 'Carry me this my letter to Al-Wujud, and bring me his reply.' The nurse took the letter, and repairing to kissed his hands and greeted him right courteously, then gave him the paper, and he read it, and comprehending the contents, wrote back on the back these couplets. I soothe my heart and my love repel, but my state interprets my love too well. When tears flow, I tell them mine eyes are ill, lest the sentiers see and my case foretell. I was fancy free, and I knew I love, But I fell in love, and in madness fell. I show you my case and complain of pain, pine and ecstasy that your ruth compel. I write you with tears of eyes sober-like. They explain the love come my heart to quell. Allah guard a face that is veiled with charms, whose thrall is moon and the stars as well. In her beauty I never beheld the like. From her sway the branches learn, sway and swell. I beg you, and 'tis not too much of pains, to call, 'twere boon without parallel. I give you a soul you will happily take, to which union is heaven, disunion hell. Then he folded the letter and, kissing it, gave it to the go-between and said to her, O nurse, incline thy lady's heart to me. To hear is to obey, answered she, and carried the script to her mistress, who kissed it and laid it on her head. Then she opened it and read it and understood it, and wrote at the foot of it these couplets. O whose heart by our beauty is captive ta'en, have patience, and all thou shalt haply gain. When we knew that thy love was a true effect, and what pained our heart to thy heart gave pain, we had granted thee wished for call and more, but hindered so doing the chamberlain. When the night grows dark through our love's excess, fire burns our victuals with might and main, and sleep from our beds is driven afar, and our bodies are tortured by passion bane. Hide love, in love's code is the first command, and from raising his veil, thy hand restrain. I fell, love fulfilled by you, gazelle. Would he never wonder from where I dwell? Then she folded the letter and gave it to the nurse, who took it and went out from her mistress to seek the young man. But as she would fare forth, the chamberlain met her and said to her, Whither away? But in her fear, she dropped the letter without knowing it and went off unrecking what she had done, when one of the eunuchs, seeing it lying in the way, picked it up. When the nurse came without the door, she sought for it, but found it not, so turned back to her mistress and told her of this and what had befallen her. Meanwhile, the Wazir came out of the harem and seated himself on his couch, whereupon, behold, the eunuch who had picked up the letter came to him, handing it in hand, and said, O Lord, I found this paper lying upon the floor and picked it up. So the minister took it from his hand, folded as it was, and opening it, read the verses as above set down. Then, after mastering the meaning, he examined the writing, and he knew it for his daughter's hand. Whereupon he went up to her mother, weeping so abundant tears that his beard was wetted. His wife asked him, Who "Well, what maketh thee weep, my lord?" And he answered, "Take this letter and see what is therein." So she took it and found it to be a love letter from her daughter, Rose in Hood, to Uns Al-Wujud. Whereupon the ready drops sprang to her eyes, but she composed her mind and, gulping down the tears, said to her husband, "Oh, now, my lord, there is no profit in weeping. The right course is to cast about for a means of keeping thine honour and concealing the affair of thy daughter." And she went on to comfort him and lighten his trouble. But he said, "I am fearful for my daughter by reason of this new passion. Knowest thou not that the Sultan loveth Uns Al-Wujud with exceeding love? And my fear hath two causes. The first concerneth myself. It is that she is my daughter. The second is on account of the king. For that Uns Al-Wujud is a favourite with the Sultan, and peradventure great troubles shall come out of this affair. What deemest thou should be done?" And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day and ceased saying her permitted say. We're going to read one more night, as it is a Friday night, everybody. Thank you very much for all the comments, for the hearts and the likes. Who's on? Hi, Nuria. Hi, Mohammed. Hi, David. Lovely to see you. Hi, Sammy. Lovely to see you all. Thank you so much for watching this evening, as it is a Friday night and we've got nowhere to go because we're in curfew in Vienna. I'm going to carry reading one more page. And let's see what's going to happen next, because obviously it's all going to go horribly wrong, as it always does in 1001 Nights. Let's see, shall we? Let's find out. So, now, when it was the 373rd night, Shahrazad said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the Wazir, after recounting the affair of his daughter, asked his wife, 'What deemest thou should be done?' And she answered, 'Have patience whilst I pray the prayer for right direction.' So she prayed a 2-bow prayer according to the prophetic ordinance for seeking divine guidance, after which she said to her husband, 'In the midst of the sea of treasures standeth a mountain named the Mount of the Bereaved Mother. The cause of which is being so called shall presently follow in its place, inshallah. And thither can none have access save with pains and difficulty and distress. Do thou make that same her abiding place.' Accordingly, the minister and his wife agreed to build on that mountain a virgin castle and lodge their daughter therein, with the necessary provision to be renewed year by year, and attendants to cheer and to serve her. Accordingly, he collected carpenters, builders, and architects, and dispatched them to the mountain, where they builded her an impregnable castle, never saw eyes the like thereof. Then he made ready vivers and carriage for the journey, and going in to his daughter by night, bade her prepare to set out on a pleasure excursion. Thereupon her heart presaged the sorrows of separation, and when she went forth and saw the preparations for the journey, she wept with sore weeping, and wrote that upon her door, which might acquaint her love with what had passed, and with the transports of passion and grief that were upon her, transports such as would make the flesh to shiver and hair to stare, and melt the hardest stone with care, and tear from every eye a tear. And what she wrote was these couplets. By Allah, O thou house, if my beloved a morn go by, and greet with signs and signals lover's ear is wont to fly, I pray thee give him our salams in pure and fragrant guise, for he indeed may never know where we this eve shall lie. I wot not whither they have fared, thus bearing us afar, at speed and lightly quipped, the lighter from warm love to fly. When starkens night, the birds in brake or branches snugly perched, wail for our sorrow and announce our hapless destiny. The tongue of their condition saith, Alas, alas for woe, and heavy brunt of parting blow two lovers must abide. When viewed, I separation's cups were filled to the brim, and us with merest sorrow wine fate came so fast to ply. I mixed them with becoming share of patience self to excuse, but patience for the loss of you her solace doth refuse. Now, when she ended her lines, she mounted, and they set forward with her crossing and cutting over wold and wild and riant dale and rugged hill, till they came to the shore of the sea of treasures. Here they pitched their tents and built her a great ship, wherein they went down with her and her suite and carried them over to the mountain. The minister had ordered them, on reaching the journey's end, to set her in the castle and to make their way back to the shore, where they were to break up the vessel. So they did his bidding and returned home, weeping over what had befallen. Such was their case. But as regard Al-Wujud, he arose from sleep and prayed the dawn prayer, after which he took his horse and rode forth to attend upon the Sultan. On his way, he passed by the Wazir's house, thinking perchance to see some of his followers as of wont. But he saw no one, and, looking upon the door, he read written thereon the verses aforesaid. At this sight, his senses failed him. Fire was kindled in his victuals, and he returned to his lodging, where he passed the day in trouble and transports of grief, without finding any ease or patience, till night darkened upon him, when his yearning and longing redoubled. Thereupon, by way of concealment, he disguised himself in the ragged garb of a fakir, and set out wandering at random through the glooms of night, distracted, and knowing not whither he went. So He wandered on all that night and next day, till the heat of the sun waxed fierce, and the mountains flamed like fire, and thirst was grievous upon him. Presently he espied a tree, by whose side was a thin thread of running water. So he made towards it, and sitting down in the shade on the bank of the rivulet, essayed to drink, but found that the water had no taste in his mouth. And indeed, his colour had changed, and his face had yellowed, and his feet were swollen with travel and travail. So he shed copious tears and repeated these couplets. The lover is drunken with love of friend. On a longing that groweth his joys depend. Love distracted, ardent, bewildered, lost from home, nor may food aught of pleasure lend. How can life be delightsome to one in love, and from lover parted, 'twere strange, unkenned. I melt with the fire of my pine for them, and the tears down my cheek in a stream descend. Shall I see them? Say me, or one that comes from the camp, who the afflicted heart shall tend? After thus reciting, he wept, till he wetted the hard, dry ground. But anon, without loss of time, he rose and fared on again over waste and wold, till there came upon him a lion with a neck buried in tangled mane, a head the bigness of a dome, a mouth wider than the door thereof, and teeth like elephants' tusks. Now, when Al-Wujud saw him, he gave himself up for lost, and turning towards the temple of Mecca, pronounced the professions of the faith, and prepared for death. He had read in books that whoso will flatter the lion beguileth him, for that he is readily duped by smooth speech, and gentled by being glorified. So he began and said, O lion of the forest, O lion of the waste, O terrible Leo, O father of fighters, O sultan of wild beasts, behold, I am a lover in longing, whom passion and severance have been wronging. Since I parted from my dear, I have lost my reasoning gear. Wherefore, to my speech do thou give ear, and have ruth on my passion, and hope, and fear. When the lion heard this, he drew back from him, and sitting down on his hind quarters, raised his head to him, and began to frisk tail and paws. Which when Al-Wujud saw, he recited these couplets. Lion of the wold, wilt thou murther me, ere I met her, who doomed me to slavery? I am not game, and I bear no fat, for the loss of my love makes me sickness dree, and estrangement from her hath so worn me down, I am like a shape in a shroud we see. O thou sire of spoils, O thou lion of war, give not my pains to the blamer's gree. I burn with love, I am drowned in tears, for a parting from lover, sore misery. And my thoughts of her in the murk of night. For love hath made my being unbe. Now, as he finished, the lion rose. And Scheherazade perceived the dawn of day and ceased saying her permitted say. So, that's me finished for this evening, ladies and gents. Let's finish off with some nice music, shall we? If it works at all. We have a terrible internet connection again. There we go. So I hope you are all going to have a really beautiful weekend. As usual, as I always say, it was an absolute pleasure reading for you. Do take care of yourselves. And no, I have nothing else to say. I hope the weather, wherever you are in the world, remains or is as beautiful as it was for us here in Vienna today. Turn down just a little bit, Camilla. And yeah, have a great weekend. If your day has just started, have a really beautiful day. If you're going into your evening, have a really beautiful evening. If you are just about to go to bed, then here in Europe it is 9:43 in the evening. Then I wish you a very, very good night, and may all of your dreams be beautiful, and may they make you wake up with wonderful feelings for a very positive day tomorrow. So it is from me and from Kamyab and his very beautiful music, a very, very good night. I wish you many, many blessings and ask you to please make sure you take care of yourselves. Okay, thank you everybody. Good night. Thank you very much for listening in. And don't forget, if you do want to make comments below, have any thoughts about the readings, say something to me, ask us a question, then feel free to anytime. And if you want to donate, paypal.me/Vienna Theatre Project. Thank you very much, everybody. Good night. Take care. Bye-bye.